Good morning, students. Let us have a small recap of what we did in the first video or in the first class. And we started with the chapter The French Revolution. So, let us continue and just have a recap of that and then continue with the chapter. In the first part, we have done about the index, that is what we are going to do in this chapter, and I have told you a small background story of the French Revolution, that what happened on the 14th July 1789. A small incident I have told you, if you remember, children, where the third estate, they have attacked upon a prison which was called as Bastille. And then we continued with the next topic, that is French society during the late 18th century. How was the French society during that century, 18th century? That is, in 1774, Louis XVI of the Bourbon family, he became the king. And he was just 20 years old when he became king, and he married an Austrian princess, Marie Antoinette. When he became the king, he saw that the treasure, government treasure, was empty. Now, why the government treasure was empty? Because France was involved in many wars continuously for many years. So, that treasure became empty. We have here points, children. I'll just quickly read them out. Long years of war had drained the financial resources of France. The cost of maintaining the extravagant court at the immense palace of Versailles was very high too. France was under heavy debts because under Louis XVI, France helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from the British. That is, Louis XVI, he had helped American colonies to get their independence, which were under the rule of British. While doing this, the whole of the treasure became empty, and also the France had to take loans from the other countries, which he was not able to repay. So the lenders who had given him the loans, they started asking for an increased amount of the loans and the increased amount of the interest. So the French government was obliged to spend an increased percentage of its budget on interest payments alone. So there were two things. Number one, France was under the debt. They had to pay a lot of money to the countries from where they have taken the loans with a high interest rate. Other than that, they also had to take care of their palace and the army which was working for the country. So to meet its regular expenses such as cost of maintaining an army, cost of the court, that is the palace or the court of the king, running the government offices, universities, etc., the state was forced to increase taxes. Yet even this measure alone would not have sufficed. That means they were not able to solve their problem even after they have increased the taxes. The reasons are we are going to do now. Now, social setup in France. That is, how was the France society divided? It is not only France, many European countries at that time, that is in the 18th century, was under the same system, which was called as the feudal system also. So how was the society divided? The French society was based on estates of feudal system. The term old regime is usually used to describe the society and institutions of France before 1789. The French society was divided into three estates. So there were three estates, or you can say three levels of the people. Okay. So, and only the members of the third estate had to pay the taxes. So who were there in the first estate and second estate? The first estate comprised the clergy. They were called as clergy, a group of persons invested with special functions in the church. So generally they used to take care of the church and they enjoyed privileges by birth, were exempted from paying taxes. That means they did not have to pay any tax. Rather, they extracted taxes from the peasants and those taxes were called as the tithes. Then the second estate, that is the second level, that comprised the nobility, a politically class whose titles are conferred by descent or by royal decree like duke, etc. They enjoyed feudal privileges, where examples were they were also were exempted from paying the taxes. So the nobles generally they were the people, political people, or the people who were rich and working in the palace. So those people, those like for example the ministers in the palace under the king, so they were the nobles. They enjoyed the feudal privileges and they were also exempted. That means they need not have to pay any taxes. Rather, they extracted direct taxes called taille. Now, what are these direct taxes? Taxes upon the goods which were bought by the people, articles or the goods like salt, etc. So that is how they used to collect the taxes. You can see here we have shown you a slide which tells about the clergy, nobles, third estate people. So who were under the third estate? It comprised the big businessmen, merchants, court officials, lawyers, peasants, artisans, small peasants, landless labor, servants. The burden of financing activities of the states through paying taxes was only borne by the third estate. So, in the whole country, these were the people who used to pay the taxes. They were not having any privileges, not even any rights in the country. So, a table is shown here. You can see that first estate, clergy, second estate, noble, third estate, big businessmen, merchants, court officials, lawyers, peasants, artisans, small peasants, landless labor, servants. And we are recalling the terms just now we have come across. Clergy are the group of people invested with some special functions in the church. Tithe is a tax levied by the church comprising 1/10 of the agricultural produce, and taille, tax to be paid directly to the state. So you have to learn these terms, especially tithe and taille, and the system of these feudal lords, that you have to learn, children. Then we come to the next topic, the struggle to survive. When the country was having all these problems already, there was a feudal system, third estate was not getting any rights, and rather they had to pay the taxes. At that time, there were few more problems which the country faced. There was a rapid rise in the population of France from 23 million in 1715 to 28 million in 1789. We all know that when population increases, they demand more resources. Already there was scarcity of resources in the country. So this led to a rapid increase in the demand for food grains. Production of food grains could not keep pace with the demand. The demand for food grains was high, but the production was low. So when this happens in economy, we say that when the production is low and demand is high, then we say that the prices of all the goods increases. Whichever good is there in the market, their prices increases if the supply is less. Same way this happened when the food grain supply was low and the population was high, demand was high, so the prices increased, especially of bread, which is a staple food of the majority of the people in France. Most workers were employed as laborers in the workshops and the factories, and their owners had fixed wages, which again did not keep pace with the rise in prices. Most of the third estate people, especially the workers, they were not able to even buy bread. Why they were not able to even buy bread? Because the prices of the bread were more than the wages which they were earning, because the industrial owners, they had fixed the prices very low. So the gap between the rich and the poor widened. There was more gap between the rich and the poor in France. And the things became worse whenever there was a drought or hail. We all know that the farmers mainly dependent on the rainfall in those days, even in the European countries. So whenever there was a drought, at that time there was a bad harvest and short supply. That means further increase in the prices of the bread. This situation led to an outbreak of subsistence crisis. What is subsistence crisis? It is an extreme situation where the basic means of livelihood are endangered. If a person is not able to get even the basic necessities of his life, now what I mean by here basics, the first thing under the basic is also food, which is not available for the workers in France. So that situation is called as subsistence crisis, and this occurred frequently in France. So this was very common feature in France. Often it occurred, this situation of subsistence crisis. And the situation of subsistence crisis is shown in a flow chart which you can see here, children. Even in your book, this flow chart is shown over there. You can see that. For example, when there was a drought, there was a bad harvest which led to scarcity of grains. That scarcity of grains, when there are less number of amount of grains, it led to rising food prices, and the poorest can no longer buy the bread, which led to their weaker bodies and food riots. What do you mean by food riots? People started forcefully entering into the shops and looting the shops. That is food riots. They were fighting to get the food. And this all leads, because when there is weaker body, the people are not eating for many days. They are prone to many diseases, and obviously that will lead to number of deaths. This situation also we call it as a famine, where a large number of people die lack of food. So this situation is called as subsistence crisis. So let's do the next slide over there, which you can see. Now it is the next topic, children, completely, and that is a growing middle class envisages an end to privileges. Before going into the details, first of all, understand the terms here, that is middle class. Now, when I talk about middle class, it is the class which is educated class. And what I mean by envisages means it is a possibility or imagine to end privileges. This educated class, they imagined to end the privileges which were given to the first class and the second class, or to the clergies and to the nobles. That is the meaning of growing middle class envisages an end to privileges. So, in the past, many peasants and workers had participated in revolts against the paying taxes and food scarcity. But they did not have means and programs which was left to educated people in third estate for new ideas. Before this middle class emerged, also there were revolts. But those revolts were not at all successful because they were not having any proper objectives of the revolt. And it was not in a large amount also. So that is why they were not very successful. So when the third estate or when this middle class emerged, there was a purpose for the revolt. So let us see what was the purpose and how they have done this revolt. This responsibility fell on those within the third estate who had become prosperous and had access to education and new ideas. So, to change the society, the responsibility fell upon the people in the third estate who were educated class. The 18th century witnessed emergence of social groups, that is middle class, who had earned wealth through an expanding overseas trade and from the manufacture of goods that were either exported or purchased by the rich members of the society, for example, woolen and silk textiles. So these middle class people, those who also became educated and they also became little wealthy by doing some kind of manufacturing of goods and by trade also. In addition to manufacturers and merchants, this middle class included the third estate also, comprised the professionals such as lawyers and administrative officials who were educated and believed no group in society should be privileged by birth. Rather, a person's social position must be on his merit. So this third estate people, especially the manufacturers, merchants, educated people, they believed that nobody should get any privileges in the society. Rather, a person's position in the society that should be on the basis of his merit. Now, what is merit? Merit is on the basis of your education generally, on the basis of your skills. So a person should be given a status on the basis of the education or the skills of a person or the importance, what work he is doing or she is doing in the society. That should decide the position of that person. That is the meaning. So I hope children this part you have followed. Growing middle class demands end to the privileges or envisages an end to the privileges. Now in this regard, there are many thinkers and philosophers who have also given their ideas which were followed by the third estate people. So these ideas, that is to change a society based on freedom and equal laws and opportunities for all, which were put forward by some of the philosophers. How can a society be changed? It can be only changed when there is freedom among the people, when there are equal laws for the people. So these ideas were given by different philosophers. So let us start with this. This is again a very important part where you are going to study about the philosopher, the great philosophers, what were their thinkings and how these thinkings were followed by the people in France. So let's start with the first one, that is about the John Locke. In his two treatises of government, that is, he had written a book called as Two Treatises of Government, John Locke. He sought to refute the doctrine of the divine and absolute right of the monarch. So let us see the meaning of these terms. First of all, children, refute. First of all, the philosopher is John Locke. He had written a book called as Two Treatises of Government. Now, what do you mean by refute? To prove that this theory is false. Refute means he has proved that the theory given by the French government is wrong. What do you mean by doctrine? Doctrine of the divine. Doctrine means it is a belief held and taught by a church. So doctrine is a belief in those days which was taught by a church. So what was the belief taught by the church? Doctrine, that belief is called as doctrine of divine. So what is doctrine of divine? It is a belief taught by the church that monarchs right to rule directly from the will of God. That means the monarchies have been given the right to rule. This right has been given to them by the God. That is the meaning, the doctrine of divine. And then come to the next meaning, absolute right of the monarch. That means only the monarch is the highest authority in the country and he has all the powers in his hand. That is the absolute right of the monarch. So I'm just reading it again. John Locke, in his book Two Treatises of Government, he had rejected or he had proved that this theory of doctrine of the divine, that means the monarch should only rule the country and he should only have all the powers, this theory is absolutely wrong. That is what he proved. That's the first philosopher. The second philosopher we are going to do is about Jacques, you can call it as Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It is called as, or it is pronounced as Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Now, what did he propose? He proposed a form of government which is based on a social contract between people and their representatives. That means he said that the government should be based on the elections which are done by the people who will elect their representatives. That is the second philosopher. We come to the third philosopher. He is pronounced as Montesquieu. It is a French name, children. It is called as Montesquieu. And in his book, he has written a book called as The Spirit of the Laws. In this book, The Spirit of the Laws, he proposed a division of power between the three organs of government, that is legislative, executive and judiciary, like we have in our country at present in India. Same way he at that time itself he proposed in France that the powers should be divided between these three organs of the government. And this model of the government is very successful in many countries. It was even put into the front of USA after the 13 colonies declared their independence from Britain in America. The American Constitution and its guarantee of individual rights was an important example for the political thinkers in France. So France was a lot inspired from the American Constitution also. As the ideas of these philosophers, three philosophers which we have done, John Locke, Rousseau and Montesquieu, these philosophers' ideas, they spread from one city to the another city to the whole of France, and people started discussing all these ideas in their saloons, in their pubs where they used to meet and discuss. and it spread extensively among the people. And the news that Louis XVI planned to impose further taxes to be able to meet the state expenses generated anger and protest against the system of privileges. And this anger, it had, because at that time when the people, these ideas were spreading, Louis XVI also planned to increase the taxes. When this news spread among the people became very angry and they wanted to protest against this increase in taxes. Children, I'll show you a pic over here because that will be a next part or a continuation, next part of the chapter which we will do in the next video followed by this. This you can see. What do you see here, children? Can you imagine what is it here? You can see the palace which we were talking about, the prison which we were talking in the beginning. That is the Bastille prison. You can see the people, how they are revolting, being killed by the French army also we can see. So we can see that how the revolt is taking place. And in the next video, children, we will start your part 2 of the chapter, that is outbreak of the revolution. So whatever we have done in this chapter, go through this, revise it so that you can understand the next part of the chapter. It is a very interesting chapter, children, where you will see how the revolution took place in France, how France became an absolute monarch to a constitutional monarch. So we'll continue in the next video. Have a good day, students.